Hey everyone, and welcome back. It's Boone. Today I wanted to talk about a subject that's been suggested to me a few times in the past, and that is the topic of voice and specifically vocal feminization. I've sort of played with it, toyed with that idea a little bit by mentioning some of my own personal experiences with vocal dysphoria and feminizing my voice on some previous videos, but I've never really dived into it. And I thought it would be a really important and really interesting topic to focus on because dysphoria for me has largely, I mean, it's revolved around a lot of things, but my voice has been the largest source of my dysphoria since puberty. And so it's been a very prevalent topic in my personal life. And also, I actually aspire to become a voice actor. I really want to do voices for cartoons, and so I've spent a lot of time studying voices and how people talk, and it's just something that I'm personally very interested in. And so I thought maybe I could use this video as an opportunity to just do sort of like a self-analysis of my own vocal training, as well as a little tutorial on those of you who may be looking to feminize your voice. And I will say that there are several really good tutorials on YouTube already by trans women on this subject, and I'll link some of my personal favorites below. I don't have any professional expertise at all. I never did pro training or anything. I just learned from watching those kinds of videos, and so I thought maybe I could bring something new to the table by just kind of culminating the different elements of things that I've learned from them, and then kind of telling you about what I've done to help me. So the first thing I would say is I would personally advise against going the falsetto route. There's a way of doing this like Mickey Mouse sort of thing where it's like a head voice kind of, and people have succeeded in that, and they've created a range within their falsetto to be able to talk in it all the time, and they sound pretty natural. But it's very, very, very difficult, and it can be really strenuous on your vocal cords, and if you don't do it right, if you overdo it or whatever, you can cause permanent damage. So if you do go that route, just I recommend drinking lots of water and giving yourself breaks, checking in with your body. Don't overdo it. I tried that for about 6 months, maybe more, and then I kind of realized okay, I can get a voice that sounds kind of like a cis woman, but I cannot express myself. I couldn't develop a range within it. My volume was always one level. I couldn't go up. I couldn't yell in it or anything, and I couldn't I just could not express a broad range of sounds really. So the next thing I started to focus on that I think is one of the primary fundamental differences between traditional male and traditional female voices is the inflection. So very typically when men speak, their tone is flat throughout and their pitch is flat, and then sometimes at the end of a sentence it will drop a bit and they'll kind of go down as they finish. Yeah. Almost as if they're getting bored as they finish, and they don't quite like that. But with women, it's much more common for them to go up at the end of a word and at the end of a sentence. Specific words will be highlighted and they'll go up, and then just in general it kind of raises as it goes to the end of the sentence. And as a thought is being finished, it's it's like a question. It's sentences sound just a little bit more as if they're actually there's a little bit of an uncertainty almost, which that's, I don't know. I don't want to be too generalizing here, but I kind of have to be in order to, we have to create some kind of idea of what a feminine voice is in order to be able to try and achieve it. So that's something I found. I just kind of think of my sentences as being a little bit I'm asking it, or it's kind of sing-songy, it goes up. And not only does the inflection go up at the end, but I found just in general women speak more in terms of an up and down kind of speech pattern. So it can get faster and slower as you talk, and then you slow down on certain things, and then you go up again, and you're as you get excited, more excitable, more animated in general, but more specifically, the volume, tone, and pitch all go up and down throughout the sentence, more so than with most guys. Because as I said, guys' voices typically just stay kind of at a flatter tone throughout, and goes the same with volume and pitch. So that's kind of one thing. Just maybe pick one of those elements. Try to start with the inflection thing. Try to practice ending your sentences by going up. maybe if you have a habit of kind of lowering your voice at the end of sentences, just try and focus on breaking that one little habit. Because if you try to take on all of these things at once, it's going to be really overwhelming, and you're going to be trying to force a very, very, very like mechanical voice, I want to say almost, and it's not going to sound natural. At least that's what it was from my experience. If you pick out like one of these things and then move to the other and just start with one, really focus on it, eventually you won't have to focus on it as much anymore if you keep reading things in it, practicing it a little bit a day, and then it's just going to become natural and you're not going to have to think about it before doing it. Then you can move on to something else and get a little more technical and try to bring the different elements together, and gradually it will all sort of come as one. And I will say also, as you're practicing these techniques, something I found that's very, very helpful is to read different things out loud and to say different things. Like I started by reading little bits of books, but I found what was actually more helpful was me to just like talk about whatever was on my mind. I would go on Audacity and record myself and just like genuinely talk about how I was feeling or what was going on or what I was thinking at the time, because then my voice is actually adapting to the different emotions I was feeling and the different kind of ideas I was expressing, and so it was helping me just naturally practice like creating a range and being able to express myself. Whereas if you like try to say one line over and over and over again, you might become really good at saying that line in a voice that you like, but it's probably not going to translate over to you just talking in improvised situations, which is what life is. Like the conversations you have, you don't know everything you're going to say. You can't practice your lines ahead of time. So in order to just express different emotions and different feelings in the moment and on the spot, I like to just kind of sit in front of a camera like now, or just sit by a microphone and just record and just talk about whatever and just sort of make little adjustments throughout to see what the differences are. Beyond inflection, tone, and rhythm, you're going to hear a lot of people talking about pitch and raising your pitch to sound more feminine. Yes, traditionally women have higher pitch voices than men. They don't, obviously with lack of testosterone, then your voice is going to stay a little bit higher. But there are also plenty of women who have pretty low voices, like Bea Arthur, for example, who very obviously still sound like women, and you would read them as women just from hearing their voice. So I would personally say that pitch is not something you should be the most focused on, and if you're going to think about it more in terms of how it relates to the other elements I mentioned, and how you can alter it within a sentence and raise it on specific words and during specific parts of your speech to create certain kinds of emphasis that's going to highlight a more traditionally feminine speech pattern, rather than just trying to raise your pitch and nothing else, because that's what I feel like most people start with, and it doesn't really do much. Anyone can raise the pitch of their voice, and it's not going to make them automatically sound like a woman. I've definitely raised my pitch a bit. It's definitely higher now than it used to be. And I think that doing that just to kind of detach myself from that old voice and some of the older, like more male sounding habits I had has been helpful in finding a more comfortable voice for me. So definitely toy around with it, but just that's not the be all end all of it. And then I think that's like those are the main things for me. The last thing I want to mention is that the way you actually move your body can make a pretty big difference. You see me making all these hand gestures right now. I didn't used to do that before I started training my voice. And then as I started finding all these like feminine vocal habits, I started moving my hands like this to go with it. And I think it really speaks to like that sort of up and down, almost sing-songy voice I was talking about. As I kind of like get into this more rhythmic, back and forth sort of sound, I naturally just want to move my body to have these gestures that match that. So that might be one way to just sort of break into it, is start without even doing anything else, just start moving your hands as you talk and see what your voice kind of does naturally to follow. And then this is something I forgot about, but another more like sort of technical aspect that I started focusing on a little bit more recently, and I'm definitely not a master of it, the resonance of your voice. So go ahead and talk as you normally would, and feel your chest. you'll probably notice some vibrations. You'll be able to feel like the resonance of your voice, where it's coming from, the vibration of your vocal cords. And then your goal, if you're trying to sound traditionally feminine, should be to have that resonance more in the nasal area. So as I track, and like I'm exaggerating it right now to sound more nasally, now it's like all up here and I don't feel it down here at all. Having it in the throat is okay. The higher up, usually the better. That's the safest bet. But if you find that it's really, you just can't get the nasally thing going, just raising it above the chest is like the is more ideal, and usually is going to lead you to feel more comfortable with the way you're playing with pitch and tone. It's sort of hard to describe how you actually do that, but I think just like, it's mostly for me, it's a visual thing. I just actually think about this area of my face as I talk and try and like, I usually start by talking a little bit quieter and then kind of just like making my voice raspy. Like I do these little things, like if I just imagine someone who has a more nasally raspy voice and then talking a little bit softer, because if I talk like, if my pitch is lower and I'm louder, it's usually going to naturally come more down here. So I just kind of do a little Mickey Mouse sort of traits, take Mickey Mouse traits and then kind of toy with them and see, just experiment, just feel your chest and throat and see where it's coming from and see if there's different little tricks you can do to get it up there. And then once you do it, you're usually going to be able to not have too much of a hard time getting it back up there. So yeah, that's those are the main things that I've worked on. And honestly, like, it's just been a lot of repetition and experimentation. I record my voice like most days, and I'm still not at a place where I feel super duper comfortable. I feel like my voice kind of changes day to day, depending on how I'm feeling or what I'm doing or all these different factors. And that's kind of the case with a lot of cis people too. So if that's the case with you, don't feel bad about it. But these are just some ideas of maybe this gave you a jumping off point of what you can do if you're trying to achieve a more naturally sounding feminine voice. And what I'll leave you with is that it's, passing as cis is not the be all end all for most of us or for a lot of us. And there's certainly much more to it. Whether you're trying to change your voice for your own personal alleviation of dysphoria or for the safety reasons of passing or for a combination of that or whatever, I understand that sounding natural is a very, very important part of it. Having a voice that sounds like you are putting on or presenting or forcing is going to be a pretty big giveaway that isn't, that you have like, it's going to draw out more masculine elements, I guess, is what it has done in my experience. And so just going back to what I said earlier, focusing on like one element at a time and letting it all kind of progress very gradually is pretty important. It's not an overnight process. For a long time, I felt that I was just going to lab all of these different techniques and eventually have a female voice that I felt comfortable presenting, and then I'm just going to go from male voice to female voice. And that's just not the case. It was like a 2-year process for me, and it's still going on. And if you go back and you watch YouTube videos I made like 2 years ago, it's hugely, hugely different. But people never really commented on it as it was going on because it was such a slow and gradual succession. So just remember that making it sound, avoiding things that will make it sound like your voice is being forced is one of the most important factors. And finding a voice that's going to be comfortable for you and that will sound, you'll feel confident in, which is going to make it sound more natural to others. So sorry that all my thoughts were kind of scattered in this video and I was kind of throwing things on at the end as I remembered it, but I don't know. It's like there's a lot of stuff on this subject, and I just wanted to kind of throw out all the different ideas I've had about it. There's so much more I could probably talk about just because of how often I think about different people's voices and why we perceive them the way we do and what we can do to alter our own. So if you have any questions, leave comments. Maybe I'll do like another video to kind of like, as a little part 2, cover some of the stuff I didn't cover in this one. But like I said, I'll link some other tutorials in the YouTube, of other YouTube channels in the description. And I'll probably also link like just a video of me from a couple years ago if you want to compare what my voice sounds like now. But anyway, I hope this offered some insight maybe or help to anyone. And then if it didn't, I hope just maybe it was kind of interesting to hear me talk about my own experiences with this sort of thing. So if you liked, give it a like, let me know, comment, whatever. You guys are great. I hope you're having a good holiday season, and I will see you next time.